Let's say you're looking for a 36mm steel watch with sporty characters, reliability, accuracy, history and looks. There won't be too many options to see, yet the ones that will tick the boxes will have more differences to offer than the similar size. When you're comparing a Rolex with another Rolex, the best part is that regardless of what watch you are inclining to or end up choosing, there are some core attributes that are almost synonyms to basically any Rolex in steel, especially when it's in the Oyster Perpetual case. These attributes include the timelessness in the design and looks, the brand recognition, the value retention and prestige, the durability with the movements, being in the service for decades, the precision and accuracy, which even overshadow COSC specifications, and then the pleasure of owning a masterpiece that is desired by many and only owned by a few. But at this price point, no matter how technically advanced and rugged the watch is, the factor of pleasure on the wrist is what separates the watch A from the watch B. And at this level of watch admiration and enthusiasm, you really seek and chase that perfect fit, dimensions, size, aesthetics, looks, experience and pleasure. In this video, we are looking at the Rolex Explorer 36mm in two-tone configuration and an Oyster Perpetual in again 36mm case size and an all-steel configuration. In this comparison, we will be looking at the differences in the aesthetics, looks, experience and dimensions, and not so much at what's obvious, like one being the two-tone and the other being all-steel. Starting off with the sizes on both of these watches, they are both technically marketed as 36mm cases. But when you start to dig down further and measure each size, they are quite different in their measurements too, which is possibly the reason why one looks different in size than the other when you strap them to your wrist. Speaking about the hands-on measurement of sizes, the sizes of the cases measured at the outer extremity of the bezel are slightly different in both of these watches. That is, we have 34.9mm size on the Explorer 36, whereas measuring the same on the OP 36, the size is 35.2mm. So although the difference is only 0.3mm in size, it is there. To put this difference into another perspective, the difference in sizes between the 40mm Submariner ceramic and the all-new 41mm Submariner is also only 0.3mm. To picture the size of the dial, I measured the size of the crystal on top on both of these watches, and we have 30.3mm on the Explorer and 30.1mm on the OP. So the dial size is slightly bigger on the Explorer. If you are wondering which one of these watches were taller on the wrist, I measured the lug-to-lug height on both of them, and the reading came out at more or less the same. The OP36 is 43.1mm as opposed to Explorer 36, which is 43.2mm. So the difference is barely noticeable. Speaking about the dial, as both of these watches in the video are black dials, yet the looks and experience on offer are quite different. The OP36 comes with a dial which, although is black, has a sunburst treatment. That is, you will see its dial radiating the light from its center towards the bezel due to the radial brush lines on the dial. Whereas with the Explorer, the dial comes with glossy black finish. That is, you will mostly see it showcasing a jet black texture, but under a specific lighting and an angle. You can see the finish on the dial is glossy, and it doesn't come with any radial lines. For reference, the dial treatment and the shade on Explorer is exactly the same as you see on Rolex Submariner or the GMT, as opposed to previous generations of Explorer, which had a greyish, vintage and a matte black texture to the dial. The bezel on both of these watches is different too. That is, the OP comes with rounded profile on the bezel, which looks more like convex in its shape, as opposed to the Explorer, which has a smooth yet a flat bezel with no convex surfaces. Speaking about the case thickness, the OP is 11.7mm in thickness, as opposed to Explorer, which is 11.5mm for the case thickness. While the difference is there, it is hardly noticeable and you won't feel it even when they are side by side. One more interesting difference is the profile and treatment on the hour markers, and where the Explorer comes with the 369 numerals and then the stick hour markers, there's no chamfering or beveling at the corners of any hour markers, which makes it relatively more understated watch. Whereas in case of the OP36, all the hour markers come with beveled edges for all the four sides, and it does make the experience from the watch a little more special, especially when you see the hour markers play with the light and reflections upon the flick of wrist. One main difference for why the OP looks more substantial than the Explorer is the width of the bracelet. The OP comes with 20mm bracelet at the lugs, as opposed to the Explorer, which has 19mm bracelet at the lugs. The bracelet on the Explorer is also narrower at the clasp by 1mm. Hence the reason it looks more subtle and slender. As the Explorer is a professional watch between the two, it also comes with welded Rolex logo at the clasp, as opposed to the OP, which has an engraved Rolex logo only. The Explorer also comes with Oyster safety lock at the clasp, which is lacking on the OP. Yet both watches come with a 5mm easy link system in the clasps, and then there's micro adjustments on offer too. Putting the watches in the dark, both watches come with a beautiful, bright and symmetrical lume. The Explorer has a lume in the seconds hand too, whereas on the OP, we only have two hands in the dark. You can also notice the difference with the lume in the Mercedes hand in the Explorer versus the classic hands on the OP. Rolex specify on their website that the lume on the Explorer will emit light for longer, and I put this into the test and left the watches in the dark for another 5 minutes. After 5 minutes of test period, the Explorer indeed maintained the lume brightness much better than the OP. So the lume performance definitely seems to have improved in the Explorer versus the OP36, which is also a relatively new watch and was released just last year. The case profile, the surface treatment and the shape are all the same in both of these watches. The Explorer comes with polished case sides, and then the lugs are fully brushed in both all steel and in this two-tone configuration. And similar is the case with the OP that has polished case sides and then all brushed lugs. Both watches come with the screw-down crown that also has Rolex logo embossed on it. On the wrist, both watches wear relatively smaller, and they are both overall smaller watches too. The OP36 maintains the same case lug-to-lug as the Explorer, and it does not wear larger by any means. But due to a wider bracelet at 20mm on the OP, it has more substance and wrist presence, and it looks a little more manly between the two too. The case thickness of 11.7mm also works very well, and the watch looks very proportionate and balanced. In case of the Explorer, we have a watch with approximately the same sizes on the case, but the overall substance from the watch is much lesser, and you can feel it even when it's not side by side with the OP. The reason primarily is the slightly smaller size on the bezel, which makes up for the watch face, and then the 19mm bracelet, which is relatively narrower, especially if you are used to wearing a 20mm bracelet on the GMT, Explorer 39 or even Oyster Perpetual. The case thickness at 11.5mm here is about the same as the OP, and overall there's no issues in slipping either of these watches under the cuffs. The Rolex Explorer and Oyster Perpetual 36 are indeed watches that share a similar size, case profile and overall the Rolex looks, yet they have an experience on offer with them that is completely different from each other. Where in Explorer, we have the iconic 369 dial that has never changed in close to 70 years. In the OP range, we have stick hour markers and classic Rolex looks that can also be spotted from 10 meters away. The interesting part is that while both watches are marketed as 36mm in size, the OP is indeed a more substantial watch of the two. Where the OP comes with a wider bracelet, the Explorer comes with a flip-lock clasp and professional attributes, and then there's a Lume that really blows the OP out of the waters. But then again, technical specs aside, the one that pleases your eyes is the one that's worth your money.